They invited me to dinner. Said it was important. I thought we were going to fix things. But what I walked into wasn't a conversation. It was a setup. A stage. And I was just the final act. Asterisk. You ever walk into a place thinking it's just another Tuesday, and walk out someone else entirely? That was that night for me. If he had said one more smug word, I swear, I might have lost it in a way I couldn't take back. We were at a dinner I never even wanted to attend. I didn't realize it was staged. Candles. Wine. One of those modern places with way too much aesthetic and no soul. She'd said we needed to talk, said it was important. Her tone made me think, maybe, she wanted to work things out. I was wrong. What she wanted was closure. Hers, not mine. He was already there. Tight black shirt. Tanned, gym polished. The kind of guy who walks into a room like he's waiting for a spotlight. Chase Donovan. My wife's colleague. The one she admired at work. The one who just got her. I'd heard his name more than my own in recent months. She waved me over. Logan, this is Chase, she said like she was introducing me to her new hairdresser, not the man who'd been lighting up her phone while I slept. I sat across from them, forcing a smile while my hands clenched into fists under the table. Then he leaned in. Like this was some kind of performance. His voice calm, practiced. You've got two options, Logan. Walk away quietly. Or stay and face this. Ashley, my wife, smiled. Not the way she used to when I made her laugh in front of friends. This was different. This smile was cold. Controlled. Like she'd rehearsed it. My ears rang with the sound of my own pulse. That hollow roar when the world narrows to a single point of focus. You want to leave with your dignity, I said evenly, or with a broken nose. Then I stood. Reached across the table. And cleared it, with his face. Plates shattered. Wine flew. Ashley screamed. Chase tried to stand, but my fist changed his mind. Months, no, years, of doubt, silence, late-night suspicion and lonely meals collapsed into that one punch. He hit the ground like a load of bad decisions. Security dragged me out, glass in my hands, blood on my collar. But for the first time in forever, I felt clean. They stayed behind. Probably ordered dessert. Outside, in the cold, with my fists burning and my pride bleeding, the truth finally hit, she hadn't brought me there to talk. She'd brought me to witness my own humiliation. That dinner. It was her closing act. The grand finale. I'd just been the prop in her final scene. When I got home, everything looked familiar, but nothing felt like mine. The walls were the same. So was the furniture. But the air had changed. Her scent lingered, but something new clung to it. Something sharper. Masculine. The bed was made. Neat. Like a hotel. She never made the bed. I sat down, palms still aching. My phone buzzed. A message from her. You didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself. No apology. No regret. Just a cold line from someone who had clearly left the relationship long before she walked out the door. That's when the wondering stopped. And the searching began. There's something about discovering the truth through a screen, it hits different. You can't argue with it. It's not a gut feeling. It's not a rumor. It's there, lit up in front of you, time-stamped and undeniable. That night, after her message, you embarrassed yourself, I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I stood up and started searching. Not because I had doubts. That ship had sunk. I wanted the black box. I needed to know what happened as everything went down. I began with her closet. It felt harmless. Routine. Until I saw the shoes. Red heels. Expensive. Flashy. Like something from a magazine spread. And not once had she worn them around me. They weren't her. They weren't practical. They were for someone else. Then I saw the tablet, her tablet. She never locked it. Said I was too trusting. She was right. The first thing I opened was the photo album. My brain was already screaming stop, but my hands didn't listen. I swiped like a man possessed. The first photo nearly knocked the wind out of me. She was standing in front of a hotel mirror, barely dressed. Date stamped. Last weekend. She'd said she was at Lacey's baby shower in Sacramento. Swipe. There he was, Chase. Shirtless. Brushing his teeth in the background like he lived there. Like he belonged. The air in the room thinned. There were videos. Voice messages. I didn't want to listen. But I did. His voice, low, smug, called her my little secret. She giggled like a teenager. She called him that name. The nickname she used to whisper to me when we were still real. She said, laughing, he still thinks we're just in a rough patch. Poor guy. That line clung to my ribs like glass. Poor guy. Everything snapped into place, the girl's nights out, the turned-over phone screen, the rolled eyes when I tried to hold her. The cold. She'd left long before she packed a bag. She just hadn't told me. The next morning, she walked into the house like nothing had happened. Hair tied back, sipping coffee, phone in hand. I sat at the dining table, staring at her like a stranger. She glanced up. What? I didn't speak. Just slid the tablet across the table, open to the messages. She paused mid-scroll. Fingers frozen. Her expression didn't shift much. Not fear. Not even surprise. Just, calculation. Finally, she said, "Why were you going through my stuff?" That's what she led with. Not "I'm sorry." Not "let me explain." I leaned in, voice steady. You lied. 4 months. You made me think I was the problem. You dragged me into that restaurant and put on a show. And now you're upset because I found out. She shrugged. You've been dull for a while, Logan. You stopped trying. I needed someone who made me feel something. My jaw tightened. Dull. The guy who kept the lights on, stayed loyal, showed up even when it hurt. I guess that counts for nothing now. This is who you chose? I asked. A walking playlist of gym selfies and hair gel. At least he listens, she shot back. At least he doesn't make me feel like I'm wasting my life waiting for you to grow up. There it was. The mask finally off. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a stage. Someone new. Someone who sparkled. She loved the idea of me. The dependable one. But comfort turned to boredom, and she chased novelty like a drug. So I got up. Went to the bedroom. Started packing. She followed. You're just going to leave? That's it? I zipped the duffel bag. You already did. You just didn't say it out loud. As I passed her in the hallway, she muttered something. I stopped. What? She looked straight at me. Unfeeling. Weak. You were never enough. I didn't flinch. Didn't shout. I walked out. Bag over my shoulder. Leaving behind the person I once imagined a life with. But deep down, I knew I wasn't done yet. The place I moved into wasn't much. 4 walls, no personality. A temporary rental off a quiet street, furnished with items that looked like they'd never been chosen, just delivered. But it was mine. No framed memories. No lingering perfume. Just stillness. And that stillness? It was louder than any fight we'd ever had. That first night, I couldn't sleep. Not because the mattress was bad, but because my mind wouldn't stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. Not the woman I married, the one who curled up beside me on cold mornings and laughed at my awful impressions. No. I saw the one who smiled across a restaurant table while dismantling our marriage in front of someone else. Her voice echoed. The laugh. The nickname. The line that sliced deepest, poor guy. You want to talk betrayal? It wasn't just the infidelity. It was the mockery. The behind-my-back chuckles at things I did out of love. Like I'd become a punchline in her private story. I ignored her calls. For 3 days. Not one response. She didn't apologize. Not once. The messages came anyway. You overreacted. Let's be mature. We can discuss terms. There's no need for hostility. Terms. Like we were negotiating over furniture, not a wrecked life. On the 4th day, she showed up. No makeup. Hoodie. Hair tied back in that way that used to mean comfort. She walked in without knocking and sat like she still belonged there. You've had your outburst, she said. Now we need to talk about what's next. I leaned against the counter. You're acting like nothing happened. She sighed. It wasn't working. You were distant. You didn't see me anymore. I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. I saw you every day. I showed up. You walked out while pretending you were still home. She stood, pacing. You always twist everything. Maybe if you'd been more of a partner. I cut her off. No. I didn't have a partner. I had someone who smiled while setting matches to our house. Her expression shifted. You think I didn't suffer? I spent years pretending I was content. No, I said, stepping forward. You lied. You didn't pretend. You made choices. Then she dropped it. Flat. Emotionless. I've been with Chase for 6 months. And I finally feel alive again. 6 months. 6 months of shared dinners while she was messaging him under the table. 6 months of back rubs while she sent hotel locations. 6 months of pretending to sleep next to someone who was already gone. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. I just nodded. Good, I said. Then you don't need to know what I did yesterday. Her brow furrowed. What? I pulled a folder from the drawer. Dropped it on the table. Inside, copies of statements, receipts, messages. Her hidden credit card. The hotels. Even conversations where she and Chase discussed moving money under her sister's name. She turned pale. What is this? Proof, I said. I'm filing. And I'm not just walking away. I'm walking in with both eyes open. And your favorite person? He's about to learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet guy. She reached for the folder. I pulled it back. We're done, I said. She looked up, and for the first time, I saw it. Not sorrow. Not guilt. Fear. But it was far too late for that. The man she buried at that dinner table. The one who still believed in promises. He didn't make it out of that restaurant. Something colder took his place. 3 days after I gave her that folder, Chase showed up. I was wrapping up a long day at work, trying to convince myself that a new life was possible, when I spotted him waiting near the parking garage. Leaning against a black Dodge Charger like he was in some streaming drama. Mirrored sunglasses. Folded arms. Like he was rehearsing a speech he couldn't wait to deliver. I didn't slow down. Just headed for my car. Logan, he called out. Casual. Like we were old college friends bumping into each other by accident. I kept walking. You got a second? He asked, stepping into my path. I stopped. Looked him up and down. Designer shirt, expensive watch, trimmed beard. A man who looked like he belonged on a billboard, not in real life. "What do you want, Chase?" He shrugged. Like he'd practiced it. "Look, I didn't expect things to blow up like that. I thought she'd handle it clean. I didn't mean for the dinner to go that way." "You thought," I repeated flatly. "She told me it was over between you two. I figured it was just a formality. You figured you could sneak into someone else's life and no one would push back." He held up his hands like I was being unreasonable. "I get it, okay. You're upset. But she made her choices too." I stepped closer. Close enough that his confidence wobbled. "She did," I said. "And so did you. So here's the deal, you don't get to play family with someone else's wife and then act surprised when the husband doesn't vanish quietly." His mouth twitched. That fake charm slipping. "She's moving in with me," he said, trying to sound firm. "Perfect," I said. "She'll look great next to your dumbbells and your mirror." That landed. His jaw tightened. "You don't scare me, Logan." "Then maybe you should be paying closer attention," I said, my voice quiet. "Because I don't need to raise my voice to end this story." He blinked. A bead of sweat appeared near his temple. I leaned closer. "You want to talk about choices? You made yours 6 months ago, back when you leaned across a dinner table and offered me options. Remember that?" He didn't answer. So I repeated the line. Calm. Even. I wanted it to burn. "You want your teeth whole or in pieces?" He flinched. Barely. But enough for me to know exactly who he was. All bulk. No backbone. "I'm not here to fight," he said, quieter now. "No. You're here because you finally realized who you were dealing with." Then I walked away. Because fists are easy. But what was coming? That was going to last. Back at my place, I opened my laptop. Sat down. Got to work. The folder I handed her. Just a preview. My lawyer and I had built something bigger. Something solid. Bank records. Deleted messages. Transfer logs. Her library weekends had a paper trail. And it all pointed to misuse of shared finances. Turns out, betrayal is messy. But financial betrayal? That leaves a mark. The deeper we dug, the sloppier it got. She'd paid for his watch. His hotel bills. Even groceries. With our joint funds. One transfer even had her sister's name on it. Thought I wouldn't notice. Thought I wouldn't dig. But I was done being quiet. What surprised me wasn't how far it went, it was how easy it seemed for her. Like loyalty was a costume she took off the second it got uncomfortable. Each receipt I printed, each message I uncovered, it chipped away at the illusion. The one I'd been clinging to for far too long. Then, late one night, the phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. I let it buzz 3 times. Then I answered. "Logan," she said, voice low. No venom this time. No fire. Just, deflated. "What? I didn't expect you to go this far." "Far?" I echoed. "You think this is far? You cheated. Lied. Built a second life while smiling in my face. And now you're surprised I didn't just fade away? I didn't mean to hurt you." "Yes, you did. You just didn't think I'd respond." Silence. The quiet hum of late-night streetlights bleeding through the blinds. "He's not who I thought," she finally said. I said nothing. I thought he'd protect me. Be solid. Translation, I thought he'd shield me from the consequences. Another pause. I made a mistake. I closed my eyes. Shook my head slowly. No. Forgetting a birthday is a mistake. Leaving your phone charger at work is a mistake. You lived in this. Week after week. You didn't trip and fall into it, you built it. And now you're upset I lit the match first. She tried to speak again. I hung up. I didn't need her to say sorry. I wasn't looking for a confession. I was setting fire to the last thread of the life she walked away from. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about taking back my name. Let her keep the gym bag and the lies. I had something better. Freedom. Freedom's strange. You imagine it'll feel like running barefoot through an open field, arms out, sky wide. Nah. At first, it felt like staring at a ceiling fan at 2 a.m., wondering if you were ever really loved or just convenient. But something shifted. After that last call, something in me clicked, quietly. I had spent so much time clinging to the idea of us. Of fixing it. Of being the one who stayed. Now. There was nothing to stay for. The divorce process moved quickly. Faster than I thought. Probably because she didn't want it to drag into court, didn't want things exposed. She still cared about her image. Always did. If she cried at the right moment, smiled just enough, she could rewrite the story. But when my lawyer dropped those documents, credit reports, text logs, payment histories, her tone changed. Fast. She didn't cry. She negotiated. Like she was closing on a house instead of burying a marriage. We had one final sit-down. Mediation. Her lawyer, mine. A long table that smelled like lemon polish and pretense. She wore a navy suit. Hair tight. No makeup. She looked like someone pitching a startup, not someone unraveling a family. She asked for the car. The guest room furniture. One more month of access to the house. I gave her nothing she hadn't earned. Which was nothing. But before we wrapped, she had the audacity to ask for one more thing. Can we talk? She said after the lawyers stepped out. I almost laughed. We're talking now. I mean, alone. I just looked at her. Let her squirm. Finally, she broke the silence. You've changed. You just never saw this version of me. No, I mean, you're colder. You never met the real me. You met the guy who still believed you were who you said you were. She looked down. I miss him. Yeah, I said. So do I. And that was it. I didn't wait for a tear. Didn't offer comfort. I walked out and let the door close behind me like punctuation at the end of a sentence I didn't write. That night, back at the rental, I sat on the porch with a beer and a silence that didn't feel peaceful, just empty. I opened a file on my laptop titled Reset. Inside, nothing about her. No photos, no texts. Just a new budget. Travel ideas. Apartment listings. A gym schedule. Goals I'd ignored while trying to keep a house from collapsing. Turns out, when you stop swimming for someone who already let go of the boat, you don't drown. You float. And then you rise. But I wasn't done yet. Because there was still someone who didn't know the whole story. Chase's wife. I'd debated it. Back and forth. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it right? Absolutely. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about the smugness. The arrogance. The way he leaned across the table like he was giving me a choice, like he had already won. So I found her. Didn't take much. A few searches. Social media. Public records. Charlotte Dalton. Elementary school teacher. 2 kids. The kind of woman who sent thank you notes with stickers. I waited outside her yoga studio. Calm. Collected. No drama. She came out with a green juice in hand and stopped when she saw me. Charlotte. I asked. Yes. I'm Logan. Ashley's former husband. Chase and Ashley. I didn't have to finish. Her face dropped. 10 minutes later, we were on a park bench. I didn't shout. Didn't embellish. I handed her an envelope. Inside, screenshots, emails, hotel bills. Nothing graphic. Just undeniable. She flipped through it slowly. Her face didn't move much, but her hands shook. He told me I was imagining it, she whispered. You weren't, I said. You were married to someone who made lying a sport. She closed the folder. Held it like it weighed 100 pounds. Thank you, she said. I stood. I know it hurts. I'm sorry. But you deserve to know. I walked away and didn't look back. 2 days later, Ashley showed up at my door. Eyes tired. Face bare. Wearing one of my old hoodies like she thought it would bring something back. He left me, she said. Took the kids. Said it was all my fault. I leaned against the frame. You did ruin something. Mine. Her lip trembled. He won't answer my texts. I gave up everything. No, I said. You gave up me. And now it's just catching up. She reached toward me. I stepped back. Don't. Her voice cracked. We can't just throw away 2 years. You threw them first. Then I handed her another envelope. Smaller. Thicker. She opened it slowly. Inside. A formal civil complaint. Emotional distress. And a notarized letter from her old friend, the one she said she was visiting during one of those hotel weekends, confirming they hadn't seen each other in over 6 months. She dropped the letter. You planned this, she whispered. No, I said. You did. She stood in my living room like a ghost who didn't know it was dead. Mouth parted. Fingers trembling. That hoodie now hanging off her like it didn't know whose story it belonged to anymore. This is cruel, she muttered. I tilted my head. Cruel. I stepped forward, slow and deliberate, like walking across ashes. Cruel was watching you smile at me while messaging someone else. Cruel was me smelling cologne that wasn't mine. Cruel was watching you vanish in front of me while pretending you were still home. Her shoulders dropped. The pride, the posture, all of it faded. I panicked, she said. I felt alone. Don't do that, I snapped. Don't try to wrap this in sympathy. You weren't lost. You were just already gone. She looked up. Her eyes filled. But they didn't move me. Not anymore. I've lost everything, she whispered. Charlotte posted the truth. Tagged me. My inbox is a nightmare. People are calling me fake. A homewrecker. I didn't blink. Didn't shift. I wouldn't soothe her. Not now. Not ever. You didn't lose it, I said. You handed it away. You gave it away, I repeated. For what? A thrill? A moment of attention? You set fire to something steady because it didn't sparkle anymore. She looked at me, really looked. And for the first time, her eyes didn't beg. They just folded. Like even she realized there was nothing left to recover. Do you hate me? She asked. I paused. No, I said. Hating you would mean there's still something to burn. I'm past that. I just see you now. What do you see? I see someone who still thinks this is about getting caught. It's not. It's about who you were when no one was watching. She sat on the edge of the couch, our old couch, like it was still a place of safety. Like she could disappear into the cushions and come out forgiven. I messed up, she said. I was scared. I felt small. You weren't scared, I said. You were calculating. You timed your stories. You chose the lies. You wore them like perfume. Her hands shook. Her shoulders fell. I didn't move. You were always good at escaping things, I said. Tears. Excuses. Silence. But not this time. She buried her face in her hands. Her cries were quiet, as if even her shame knew it didn't belong in this room anymore. There was no drama. No shouting. Just her unraveling, thread by thread, and me watching like a man who finally stopped bleeding for someone who kept sharpening the blade. I let her cry. Not out of pity. But because it was finally hers to carry. When the sobs slowed, she asked it again. What happens now? I walked to the door. Opened it. Held it. Now, you leave. She stood slowly. Hoodie still wrapped around her like borrowed skin. Her eyes darted toward mine. Will I ever be forgiven? I didn't look at her. That's not my job anymore. She walked out. I closed the door behind her. And this time, I locked it. After she left, the silence didn't feel victorious. It just was. You'd expect to feel relief. Maybe a sense of triumph. But there was no moment of celebration. Just the sound of the fridge humming, the whisper of traffic outside, and a space that no longer echoed with pretending. I walked through that little rental apartment. No scent of her perfume. No distant sound of a hairdryer. No cups half filled on the counter. Just emptiness. And me inside it. I realized something. I didn't miss her. I missed the man I used to be when I thought she loved me. I missed making tea for her in the morning. I missed the way she'd wrap her arms around me while I shaved. I missed a version of us that maybe never truly existed outside my own imagination. But that's the thing with dreams. They don't die all at once. They leak. I didn't check her socials. Didn't text her. Didn't wonder where she went next. I knew she'd be in cleanup mode, probably rewriting the story, casting herself as the misunderstood soul, painting me as cold, unavailable. Let her. I was done auditioning for a part in someone else's fiction. Instead, I picked up the broken pieces I'd left waiting. I rejoined the gym. Took long walks. Not to escape, but to breathe again. To remind myself that motion doesn't always mean chasing. I dusted off my guitar. My fingers stumbled at first, rusty and unsure. But the chords came back. Slowly. Patiently. Like forgiveness, but this time, for myself. A few days later, I passed by the restaurant. The one where she ended us. I stopped. Couples were laughing through the glass. Toasting. Sharing appetizers. A life I once knew. I didn't go in. Didn't need to. Because that place wasn't mine anymore. And neither was she. Some nights, the loneliness still visited. It didn't speak. Didn't demand. Just sat with me. I let it. You don't fight loneliness. You acknowledge it. You breathe through it. You learn its rhythm and let it pass like weather. I started sleeping better. Less dreaming. More resting. Got back into hiking. Real trails. Boots crunching dirt. The kind of solitude that didn't feel hollow, it felt earned. People started asking if I was ready to date again. And I always said the same thing. Not yet. Not because I was afraid. But because I wasn't rushing into something just to feel less alone. Alone, I could handle. Alone with a lie. Never again. I wasn't searching for someone to fix me. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding. Quietly. Intentionally. The next time I sit across from someone at dinner, they won't get a man holding his breath, praying to be enough. They'll get someone who knows he already is. Some endings don't come with applause. There's no dramatic music. No slow fade to black. Just a man, in a room that finally belongs to him, reading a piece of paper from the court. The divorce was final. Plain envelope. Government font. Nothing cinematic. Just, finality. I didn't open it right away. Just held it. Sat on the edge of the bed, reading nothing, feeling everything. When I finally opened it, I read it twice. Then I laughed. Not a joyful laugh. The kind that leaks out when irony punches you in the gut. A bitter, breathy laugh that comes from remembering how confidently you once said, forever, to someone who was already halfway out the door. I stepped outside. Walked with no destination. Past the park where she once said she wanted kids. Where we imagined a dog, a swing, a little fixer-upper with ivy on the porch. And the memories? They didn't hit like they used to. They moved through me. Like wind. Like something I'd already survived. I stopped at a diner. Ordered coffee. The waitress asked if I wanted cream. I said, black. She smiled. Good choice. It was such a small moment. But it felt honest. Not staged. Not manipulative. Just one human offering another a quiet bit of warmth. And that's where healing starts. Not in the courtroom. Not in the apology that comes too late. Not even in the revenge. It starts in the tiny seconds when the world stops being about them, and starts becoming yours again. I left that diner with no fanfare. No grand realization. Just calm. A quiet kind of calm that doesn't need a spotlight. The kind that whispers. You made it through. It didn't hit me on some significant date. There was no symbolic sunrise. No poetic sign from the universe. It was just a Tuesday. I'd come back from the gym. Showered. Threw my hoodie on a chair. Bit into a protein bar that tasted like cardboard wrapped in guilt. And realized, I hadn't thought about her all morning. Not once. Not her voice. Not her perfume. Not the way she used to sigh when she didn't want to talk but didn't want to say it either. She was just, gone. And that's when I knew. I wasn't healed. But I was healing. Like a scab you finally stop picking at. It wasn't dramatic. It was almost boring. But in the best way. Like the chaos had finally exited the building, and peace had quietly taken its place. Funny thing is, I didn't even miss her anymore. I missed the version of us I believed in. The couple I thought we were. We weren't destroyed by betrayal. We never existed the way I thought we did. I'd been loving a draft of her. She'd been loving the fantasy of someone better. And now? It was just me. I started cooking. Terribly, at first. Burnt toast. Hard rice. Chicken that could bounce. But the process grounded me. It gave me something to mess up and fix, without it falling apart on an emotional level. I rearranged the living room. Tossed the throw pillows she loved but never used. Bought a plant. Named it Douglas. I have no idea why. Douglas leans a little. But so do I. One evening I walked past that same restaurant. The one where she'd brought me for the ambush. I stopped. Stared through the windows. Candles flickered. Couples smiled. Waiters moved in well-rehearsed choreography. And I felt nothing. No bitterness. No ache. Just stillness. I didn't go in. Didn't even pause long. Because that place. It didn't belong to me anymore. And neither did the version of me who sat at that table. Some nights, the silence in my apartment still sat heavy. Like an old friend that overstayed. But I didn't fight it. Didn't fill it with music or noise. I let it stay. Until it didn't feel heavy anymore. Until it felt earned. The hardest part of rebuilding isn't the walls, it's the foundation. Learning to be okay with yourself when no one else is watching. But I was doing it. Slowly. Clumsily. Honestly. And maybe that was enough. Some endings don't need applause. There's no final monologue. No sweeping orchestral score. Just you, standing in a quiet room, realizing it's over, and you're still breathing. The court papers were signed. The account split. The house sold. No more messages. No birthday texts. No, just checking in. She disappeared like someone used to slipping out of tight spaces without leaving fingerprints. I heard she moved to a new city. New job. New version of herself. Same old patterns, probably. I didn't check. I didn't want to. Because when a chapter's closed, you don't reread it looking for the lie. You just write a better one next. I stayed. Found an old passion for remodeling. Started helping people fix up homes on the side. There was something healing in using my hands again, patching broken things while my mind stopped chasing what couldn't be fixed. Reconnected with people I'd lost during the relationship. Funny how slowly isolation creeps in. But when you're finally free, the right ones reappear. No need for explanations. Just. Where've you been? Glad you're back. One friend, Jen, said something that caught me off guard. You look taller now, she said. Like you're not carrying anything anymore. That stuck. Because I hadn't noticed. I'd worn the weight for so long it felt natural. Now. I stood straighter. Not because life got easier. But because I wasn't slouching to fit inside someone else's version of me. That's what betrayal does in the end. Not destroy you. Wake you up. You stop making excuses for other people's bad decisions. Stop silencing yourself to keep things peaceful. You stop apologizing for expecting loyalty. You start showing up for you. You set boundaries. You speak clearly. You choose calm, not chaos. One night, I drove out to the lake near my dad's old cabin. Sat on the dock with a thermos of black coffee. No distractions. Just water, wind, and stillness. I thought about who I used to be. The man who thought love meant sacrificing everything, even yourself. The man who stayed long after the lights were out. I loved hard. I don't regret that. But now. I love better. Because now I love myself too. Love isn't just passion and poetry and promises. It's presence. It's showing up, especially when it's hard. It's honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. It's never dragging someone into a public trap just because you couldn't speak the truth privately. It's showing up, or stepping aside. And if someone can't do either, you walk. I still have scars. Still have days where the weight creeps back. But I also have peace now. Not the kind that arrives with fanfare. The kind that grows in the quiet. The kind you earn. And that's what I'm building now. A life that doesn't chase approval. A love that doesn't need to prove itself through pain. A future I don't need to apologize for. I'm still healing. Still learning. Still standing. But this time, taller.